Hello everyone! Welcome back to Let's Play Great Ace Attorney for the Switch. This is V-Diffuser. In our last episode, we finished Case 3 with an not guilty verdict, although it really wasn't deserved. There was lots of tampering with the evidence and witness tampering. Still, something tells me that we're not going to be hearing the last of that. And now it's time for us to go to Case 4, which is considered quite possibly the second most disliked case of the entire series. Let's go. Episode 4, The Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro.
I begin to think, Wilson, said Sholmes, turning his head languidly in my direction, that there is more to this case than that which we have observed. Indeed, that there may be another part to this story that we are yet to discover. His eyes wandered, following the steam rising from his cup of herbal tea, leading him to the distant memory of that snowy evening. To the young lady collapsed on the pavement along Briar Road, and to the knife in her back. Lit in the soft glow of gas lamps, a most extraordinary scene had been set. And under the cover of a light fog, the curtain had risen silently on the insoluble mystery of our invisible killer.
February. That's just my dad's birthday almost. Did you sleep last night, Mr. Naruhodo? No, not at all. It was an enormous hotel, wasn't it? The rooms were so luxurious. I felt like we were staying in a palace. Hotel rooms are considered luxurious? Well, maybe back then. And with all the gas lights twinkling, it was brighter than the day. Even in the middle of the night. Oh boy. What about the enormous beds? After my time on the SS Brewery, I wasn't going to waste a single inch of that space. I spent the entire night rolling from one side of the mattress to the other. Oh yes, it really was the sort of night you could only dream of normally. Except when I learned that we owed £3 for the rooms. That dream quickly turned into a nightmare. £3? Ouch! That is expensive back then. Oops. Sorry about that. The building was so impressive and the entrance so inviting, I just wandered in without thinking. In a lodging house in Japan, that sum of money would put a roof over your head for a whole year. Oh, that's the exchange rate. I did try, but I'm afraid I couldn't help my tears when we were presented with the bill. I really am sorry. Well, never mind. We must find some more affordable lodging straight away, though. If we're not careful, our entire stipend will be used up in 10 days or less. London is a scary place. Ah, good morning to you all at this early hour. There he is again. Oh, yes, well. Good morning to you, Lord Chief Justice. We've come to report on the outcome of the trial at the Old Bailey yesterday. Susato-san is amazing. She didn't bat an eyelid even in the presence of the imposing Lord Strongheart. Yes. I believe you had a very comprehensive initiation into British courtroom practices. Oh, yes, it was very eye-opening. Thank you. And in accordance with your instructions, Lord Strongheart, Mr. Naruhodo performed his duty to the end. Oh, that asshole didn't deserve his not guilty verdict. Yes. I've already been apprised of events. You conducted a remarkable defense. You may consider the test passed. Oh! No longer are you a student from the Empire of Japan. You may henceforth claim to be a fully fledged lawyer. My country is delighted to welcome young talent from such a remote eastern land. Thank you very much. So, I'm a lawyer now. Now, in view of your new appointment, I have a fresh case in mind for you. I'd like you to take it on at once. I trust that won't be a problem. Another case? Already? Nothing treads a lawyer better than practical experience. I'm sure. I don't sense dissatisfaction. Do I? It's just that yesterday's trial ended unusually. I haven't quite come to terms with it. What's to come to terms with? The man was cleared. Unlawfully. What more were you hoping for? The culpability of the defendant has not at the present time been established by this court. Consequently, the jury will not be required to proffer judgment. Well, Lord Van Zieks, it's been a pleasure, so it has. And as for you, my dear fella, I couldn't have asked for a better defense. I just can't help wondering if Mr. McGilded really was innocent. Mr. Naruhodo! It's just that I never managed to ascertain the truth. And then the trial ended. Well, you needn't let it trouble you for a second longer. Sorry? What do you mean, Lord Strongheart? Magnus McGilded passed away immediately following the trial. Oh, he really was the guy in the carriage. No! What? Mr. McGilded is dead? That was perfect timing. I have 19 minutes and 41 seconds until my next engagement. Time enough to talk. I don't understand. What happened? Hang on. I'm back. Stupid spam calls. Okay, where was I? Oh, right. I don't understand. What happened? How could he be dead? After the trial concluded yesterday, there was a great commotion in the Old Bailey. As you'll presumably recall, an omnibus had been wheeled into the courtroom. Yes, of course. That was the scene of the crime which Mr. McGilded had been accused of. Precisely. Well, while the bailiff's attention was diverted by some other matter, the omnibus went up in flames. No. How could such a thing have happened? That is being investigated as we speak. But already... The police have identified a corpse found inside the charred shell of the carriage as that of McGilded. That's awful. Is it really? Is it? The man must have slipped inside whilst the bailiff's attention was elsewhere. That bailiff really needs to pay more attention. How could that have happened? That is also being investigated as we speak. Thinking back now, immediately after the trial, Mr. McGilded did mention going back into the courtroom to look at the omnibus. Well, I must be making tracks now. It's time for the inspection. Sorry, what inspection? I'm going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself. An inspection of the omnibus? An inspection of the omnibus. Not to my knowledge. I don't believe Scotland Yard had any intention of re-examining the carriage. But then who was Mr. McGilda talking about? Never mind that now. The Yard is making a thorough investigation. This matter is no longer any concern of yours. Leave it to the police. Poor Mr. McGilda. So, how did you find your first taste of our country's Supreme Court? Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, it was... wow! Mr. Naruhodo means that the whole experience was steeped in the solemnity of Great Britain's long history. It really is a world apart from our own judicial system in Japan, which is only a few short decades old. Wow, Susato-san is such a way with words. And you seem to have a way of failing to find the right ones. The judicial system here is the most advanced in the world. Learn all you can. The most advanced in the world, is it? It was fortunate that your very first trial was a simple affair. That was simple? My thoughts exactly, Susato. My thoughts exactly. As I believe I mentioned yesterday morning, it was a trial you couldn't lose. I don't mean to be contrary, Lord Strongheart, but that case was anything but simple. The circumstances of the case were so incriminating, I was stunned when I first heard them. In fact, I'm still finding it hard to believe we managed to get a favorable verdict. You know something we don't you? Is something funny? No, my apologies. However, the fact is that you did receive the not guilty verdict you set out to achieve. Yes. And that can only be attributed to exceptional talent. Wouldn't you agree? Well, I don't know about that. Well, never mind. You exceeded my expectations, I freely admit. That much, at least, is an undeniable truth. Which is precisely why I have prepared the new case for you that I mentioned before. What's going on? What was he gonna say before? This guy's up to something. Could you perhaps give us some more details about the new case you mentioned? Don't tell me. It's a murder, and the trial starts in 10 minutes. Don't worry, it's nothing so alarming or quite so urgent as your last assignment. And I mean, in fact, the case is completely different. Oh, I see. Did he just read my mind? That is to say, no one has died. As yet. What's with the helicopter? And the trial will not be today. There's plenty of time to research the case thoroughly. 23 hours, 43 minutes, and 19 seconds to be precise. So the trial's tomorrow then. Is everything alright? Oh yes. I'm just a little confused, that's all. Yesterday's trial was... well, it's left me wondering if I'm really cut out for being a lawyer. Mr. Naruhodo, I don't know if I could face standing in that courtroom again after Mr. McGilda's trial. Ah, yes, I nearly forgot. There is one similarity with yesterday's case. Once again, there is currently no one to advocate for the defense. Oh! If the situation remains unchanged, the trial will start tomorrow with the defendant unrepresented. And if that happens, I need not remind you of the inevitable outcome. The most terrible end awaits the defendant. Yes. Yes, that's right. Here we go again. Your time is up. You will have to excuse me. I would advise you to begin making preparations for tomorrow's trial. After all, the clock is ever ticking. There is now but 23 hours, 26 minutes, and 39 seconds until the court sits. Last time he mentioned the 23 hours, he said there was plenty of time. And one more thing, Mr. Naruhodo. There is something I would like to ask you. Oh, what's that? Yesterday, you remarked upon something. That you intend to see through the will of your late compatriot, Mr. Asoge. I would be interested to hear exactly what you mean by that. Inside 34 seconds. Oh, well, there's ticking in the background. Kazuma always used to say, you see, that he wanted to learn how the greatest justice system in the world worked so he could change hours in Japan. Now that he's gone, I'd like to work towards that myself. And there's another thing. Oh! Another thing. Continue. On the way here, on the steamship, he said something to me. There's something very important I have to do. Something very important. And what exactly would that be? He never had a chance to tell me. I suppose he would have done if he'd ever made it to Great Britain. You're out of time. Well, thank you for an enlightening discussion. Yes. Mr. Naruhodo, what's all this about? Mr. Asogi never once mentioned anything of the sort to me. I urge you both to focus your attentions on the matter at hand. I've taken the liberty of summoning the police inspector in charge of the case. He'll be able to apprise you of the details. How long's he been there? So, I wish you the best of luck, and bid you farewell. Yes. There's something very important I have to do. Kazuma-sama, what did you mean? I wish I knew, but honestly he never told me. Anyway, we'd better talk to the detective, don't you think? Yes, you're right. Hope I'm just imagining it, but I wouldn't say he looks pleased to see us at all. I wonder if this guy's gonna be our gumshoe. Or is he supposed to be Inspector Lestrade? Now that wouldn't make sense, because we already met Gina Lestrade. Hey, he's got fish and chips already. Could we trouble you? What do you think? Ah! Lovely weather, isn't it? What's the weather got to do with anything? Hey! Ain't me, you young Japanese upstart. Nice guy already. Some frippery about the weather doesn't get every English gentleman jet eaten out of your hand, you know. But Susato-san told me it was foolproof. I'm a busy man with unlimited fishing ships, you see. The way you're eating, you're gonna end up like salmonella. There's a crime scene to investigate, but I'm here having to give you the likes of you you're talking to. Oh, I'm ever so sorry. Imagine what the other officers there will be saying, Haven't seen Gregson anywhere, have you? Now he's too busy with the bigwigs these days. And oh All because of some bumpkin who's here on a jaunt from a country I've never even heard of. Definitely not our Gumshoe. Hear that ripping sound? That's my reputation at the yard going to tatters. Tatters or taters? Ha ha! There's no need to rip us apart as well. I don't believe we've been introduced. This is Mr. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a defense lawyer. Hey. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant, Aye! There's the oh shit expression that we've come to expect from Gumshoe. It's lovely weather we're having today, isn't it? Oh yeah, it works for her, doesn't it? It's unseeably fun, I grant you. London winters don't see a lot of sunshine. Unbelievable. How did she pull that off? So, Lord Strongheart has asked me to fill you in on the case. Name's Tobias Gregson. Inspector Gregson to you. From Scotland Yard. Gregson? Inspector Gregson? What's the matter with Susato-san? Does this detective's name mean something to her? Inspector, are you perhaps the Inspector Gregson? Oh, might be. You're acting like you know this man, Miss Susato, but he's a London detective. Oh, I do know him. Very well, in fact. Very well. Of course, he's in Adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Oh, and that publication. What's it called again? Ranst Magazine? Right, Inspector Gregson and Mr. Sholmes enjoy a wonderful, friendly rivalry. Really? You rival the great Mr. Sholmes. That's incredible. Oh, well, I don't know about that. Mr. Sholmes isn't a professional like myself, of course. But he does come up with the goods from time to time. Excuse me. Mr. Sholmes is equally complimentary about you, Inspector, isn't he? You've earned his highest praise. Gregson is the pick of the bad lot of all the Scotland Yarders. Those were his own words. That's damned by faint praise if I've ever heard of it. That's his highest praise. Well, Mr. Sholmes isn't particularly known for giving compliments, you see. That he is not. And thanks to that magazine, my name's known all over London town now. That's great, isn't it? I have to admit that to start with, I was a little, well, flattered by all the attention. Oh, yes. That's the thing, isn't it? Once you're famous, you don't want to be famous anymore. Everyone wanted to shake my hand, and my reputation at the yard went through the roof. Well, that's wonderful. No, it is not. There's nothing more sinister than the man on the street. People are always looking at me now. They're whispering rumors about me under their breath, I'm sure. Rumors? Are you quite sure? It's changed since he started appearing in those stories. Fame's gone to his head. Stuff like that. Gosh, you really think people are saying such mean-spirited things about you? Oh, you wait till you get famous. People will say all sorts of shit about you. I haven't quite gotten that far yet, since I'm only 31 subs. I imagine it'll be an inevitability soon. Like I said, they whisper, so I can't actually catch what they're saying. But I know what folk are like. I'm sure that what they're saying, as sure as eggs is eggs. I get the feeling this detective could be very hard work. Oh dear, perhaps a sudden rise to fame does change people. You've no idea. So, about the case that the Lord Chief Justice mentioned before. tell, really. As far as we're concerned at the Yard, it couldn't be simpler. Oh dear, that probably means that as far as we're concerned as lawyers, it couldn't be more complicated. I wish you were wrong about that, but I have a nasty feeling you're right. A young woman's walking along the pavement at Briar Road, when she was stabbed from behind. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal, but she's still laid up in the hospital unconscious. Oh, well, for once this isn't a murder trial. That's despicable. What sort of coward would attack the poor woman from behind? I suppose you would have finished whoever it was off with a Susato takedown, wouldn't you? That is neither here nor there, Mr. Naruhodo. Brace yourself, Ryunosuke. You've angered her now. Anyway, after something of a whirlwind investigation, the criminal was arrested. You barely had time for a cup of tea after the incident took place, to be honest. So, there must have been something left at the scene that led you directly to the culprit? Or perhaps a reliable witness who recognized the person in question. Let me stop you right there. You're wasting your time on this one. Sorry? There's nothing you can do. There's no way to help the bloke now. Why ever not? Simple. The prosecutor that's been assigned to the trial tomorrow is Lord Beric Van Zieks. Oh boy. No! Sounds like you've heard of him then. Oh yes. We are familiar with Lord Van Zieks. And Kit has decided that she sees someone in the front yard. Believed to be the harbinger of death himself, the Reaper of the Bailey. Lord Beric Van Zieks, who we faced in court only yesterday. Mr. McGilda told us about him before the trial, didn't he? When's that in Van Zieks? When Van Zieks stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. And in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. This Reaper of the Old Bailey nickname, I suppose he's earned that because every defendant he advocates is found guilty. Is that it? Well, if that's the case, we should inform you, Inspector, that in yesterday's trial against Lord Van Zieks, Mr. Naruhodo secured a verdict of not guilty. Ha! And what are they? Oh? Well, I think that means that even against the Reaper of the Bailey, that's not impossible to save the defendant. Now, you really don't have a clue, do you? What do you mean? What happened to that bloke in the end, eh? He's dead. Ah. Magnus McGilded came a cropper in that omnibus when it went up in flames. You can't rightly say you saved the defendant, can you? What are you saying? Look, if Van Zieks could get the dirt to stick on everyone, he'd be a miracle worker. But that's not how it goes. He doesn't work miracles. He works magic. Black magic. I'd have a good long think about that if I were you. Are we really supposed to believe that? Right, well, I filled you in as a requested, and I'm very nearly out of chips. So I'll be headed back to the crime scene now. We're still carrying out a few investigations there. It was Briar Road, you said, didn't you? Where the incident took place? That's correct, ma'am. And if you head over there to the holding cells, you can meet the criminal himself. You branded him a criminal already. He's as good as. Shaking like a leaf in his cell he is. He'll give you a chuckle if nothing else. Dude. He's inmate 53. Speak to the jailer and he'll show you the way. Inmate 53. Thank you. Well, he's Johnny Sunshine, isn't he? So there's no helping anyone against the Reaper of the Bailey, they say. Is something troubling you, Mr. Naruhodo? To tell the truth, when I recall the trial yesterday, I can't stop myself from shaking. The idea of facing the Reaper in court again is... Well, if you think it's too much for you, there's no shame in turning the case down. That takes courage, too. But if the man they've arrested is innocent, you can well imagine he would be shaking like a leaf in his cell. And I, for one, wouldn't find the side of that funny. You tell him, Ryunosuke! So, if I'm honest, I'm still reeling from the shock of yesterday's events myself. And I'm really not sure if I'm able to help this man, whoever he is. But I'd like to try. So I think I'm going to make some inquiries. Will you help? Did you really think you had to ask? After all, I'm your judicial assistant. Thank you. So then, shall we?
Yes. Let's go.
Alrighty. Moving right along. Time to go to the detention center. Ugh. Definitely different than the modern one in Phoenix Wright. So these are British prison cells. Oh, they're ghastly. It feels just like a dungeon. Yeah, and I've experienced it in Japan myself. I can assure you that our wooden cells feel a lot cozier than these cold stone walls. Oh, don't, Mr. Naruhodo. You're making it seem worse. Apparently, our client is in this cell here. But it's so dark at the back there, I can't make him out. I wonder what he's like. I wonder if we'll actually meet our Larry Butts. Inmate 53! Your legal representative is here to see you. Stop hiding in the back of the cell and show your face at once. Am I a cat? As yet with no name? Calling me by a number. It's utterly, unbelievably, unjustly, unreasonable. I refuse to answer. Mr. Naruhodo, what? What do you think is going on here? I have no idea. But I wasn't just hearing things, was I? That tirade of complaints was in Japanese. Excuse me. Who? Shh, quiet. Huh? They're all around. Hiding. I know they are. They're watching. Listening. Even now. I can sense it. Right. So, could I ask you who exactly... There you are! You come to curse me, haven't you? Don't try to hide it. You're a ghost! A ghost? You mean you no harm, prisoner-san? Are you... Japanese by any chance? This is... beyond my wildest dreams. Forgive me for that outburst before. I'm so sorry. Oh, it's fine. You're just a little surprised, that's all. Oh, you look like you're about to take a shit. It's been 12 long months since I left my hometown, and here I am, in a frightful mix in a foreign land. He's definitely our Larry Butts. So hearing the sweet, sentimental tones of a compatriot's voice here in this dark hellhole was, momentarily moving moment. Who could have guessed that this new client, Lord Strongheart, assigned to us, would turn out to be a fellow Japanese? What compassion my fellow countrymen show. To dispatch a first-class lawyer all the way from Japan to defend a mere foreign student. Noble, nurturing, never failing, Nippon! First-class lawyer? Oh dear, I think there's been something of a misunderstanding here. I wonder, could you be so kind as to tell us what's happened? Why you've been detained as a suspect, for example? Yes, I can, I will! Chant, say, sullen, and silent! I'm not quite sure I understand what he means, but seems happy. Yes, he does. I just hope he actually has a good reason to be. Thank you for your cooperation. I'm a lawyer, as you said. My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I am Naruhodo-san's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba. I am a visiting student sent here by our government. Notably, notoriously named Natsume. Sosuke Natsume. You're Sosuke Natsume. One of the greatest Japanese authors this side of Murasaki Shikibu. You wouldn't expect it. This guy is the reason that Morgana from Persona 5 uses the pronoun wagahai because of his book called I Am a Cat. Wagahai, I don't remember the full name in Japanese. It is considered quite possibly the greatest book written in Japanese. This guy. Sosuke Natsume. Sosuke Natsume. Son? What an unusual name. Call me Sosuke, please. I am a poet, you see. A writer of haiku. Call me Sosuke. Call me Sosuke, please. I'm a poet. I'm a poet, you see. I'm a poet, you see. A writer of haiku. That's almost a haiku. It's something of a nom de plume. A nom de plume? You mean an alias? That's right, Naruhodo-san. No! Don't be so prosaic! It's much more refined than that! And haiku? That really reminds me of home. Did I hear you say you were a visiting student sent over here by the government? Yes, that's right. A year ago I was told to go and study English. First I had to suffer that misery. And now this, it's beyond the pale. Oh. Suffer that misery. Did you not want to study here? No! I mean, I've had an interest in Great Britain for some years, of course. Oh. But! Just because the government tells you to do something, doesn't mean you can do it! No! What do you mean? If they told me to study English literature, that I could have understood. That's my field. But no! They told me to study the English language. One of the most friggin' complicated languages in the entire world. Yeah, I could see that. Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly, unreasonable! I see. Only the other day, I was told to send a report about my first year here. I tendered a blank piece of paper. Wise words on whitewashy. You must be a man of great standing. Oh yes. So I'm often told. And often like to be told, it seems. Alright. The accusation against you. Could you perhaps tell us exactly why you've been arrested, Soseki-san? I didn't do it! I didn't commit that atrocious murder! Murder? Oh, no. No. It's alright. The woman didn't actually die, did she? But she was stabbed! With a knife! Right before my eyes! Before your eyes? You mean you saw the attacker? I didn't see anyone. What? If I'd seen the person who did it, you'd think I'd be locked up in here. Oh dear. It seems this case is becoming rather complicated. Why me? Why me? Why did that silly woman have to be stabbed in front of me? It's the curse! The curse of London! It's incredibly, inexcusably, irritatingly inconvenient. So Soseki-san was there at the scene, but he didn't see the attacker. It's vital we find out more about the case. Alrighty. It was an accursed evening, just after the snow had started to clear, and heavy with fog. I'd been to the bookshop to buy some books, and I was on my way back to my accursed lodgings. Sure the bookshop wasn't accursed too? As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. You know, this guy kind of reminds me of the pictures they have of Nikola Tesla. He's not, but he kind of reminds me of him. A woman wearing a green overcoat, she was, and just as I went to overtake her, ouch, yow! She suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed into the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. How terrible. I called out to the woman, but she didn't move. It was like a ghostly, ghoulish, grim graveyard. Slight exaggeration there, perhaps. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran. And I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings. That's not good. They'll say it was shameful, I know, to run away like that. Tell me, Soseki-san, was the victim an acquaintance of yours? Don't be ridiculous! Do you think I know any of these fair-haired English? And a young woman at that? I'm diffident, shy, timid, unsure. I can't talk to people! Well, I can identify with at least a few of those. I see. A young woman unknown to Soseki-san. And at the time it happened, who else did you see nearby? Anyone pass you? Regrettably, apart from myself and the woman, I didn't see a soul. No one? Oh, great. So the victim was unknown to you and there was nobody else on the street at the time. That creates something of a conundrum, doesn't it? Hmm? What conundrum? We'll find out about that conundrum in the next episode.